Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Today we have a Samsung top-load washing machine that I picked up again off of Facebook Marketplace. All my appliances I get for free off of there. It's not that hard to find them on there. You can find them all day long for free. It's just the problem is being the first one to contact the customer. So, but luckily enough, I got this bad boy right here. Should be able to make a pretty good profit on this one when I get this thing all fixed up. So, with that being said, this had a 4E, so E is in Edward, code on it, and that is a water supply error. If you look it up online, it's got all kinds of error codes that's listed on there for Samsung products, and I looked it up. Had a 4E or a 4C, they mean the exact same thing, and it's a water supply error. So how are we gonna inspect this? How are we gonna see what's actually going on with this? So again, that's a water supply error that is happening. So either water's not getting into the washing machine, the pressure sensor is not picking up the frequency change inside of there. So as water enters the tub of the washing machine, it has a pressure sensor inside there. So a little tube on the back side down here on the tub. And as water comes in, the frequency actually lowers. And then when the water goes out, then the frequency gets higher. And so that's how the main board knows, to put it into spin, drain, stop the drain pump, whatever, stop the water. So again, that pressure sensor is a really important part, and if it's not reading correctly, or if it thinks that there's something wrong, that it's not getting water in there in a timely fashion or something like that, it'll put on that error code, and in fact that's what happens. So this thing has a timeout, so after a certain amount of time, if that frequency doesn't reach to where it needs to be, then it will throw the 4C or the 4E code on this machine here. So how do we actually access in here? Well, it's pretty simple, but first we want to inspect one thing very, very critical. On these machines, they actually have these little inline filters that you can pop out. All right, so you got these little inline filters on here. Shows you if there's anything inside of there. You can inspect this screen to make sure that there's no calcium or sand or whatever that's built up inside of there, because and especially if somebody's on well water, things like that, clay can get inside of there and cause all kinds of issues. So not only is there a screen that you can pull out, but there's a secondary screen that's inside of there too as well that you can inspect. So that's the very first thing that I would do before we move on to the next step here, is just pull those water hoses off of there, inspect those screens. There's a hot water side and cold water side. They're color coded, so you can make sure that you put the right one back where it needs to be. So with that being said, if you've checked those and there's nothing wrong with those, and there's no sand or anything or calcium buildup or clay or whatever inside of there, then we're going to move on to the actual water valves themselves and see if we can inspect those to see what's maybe going on with that. I'll also show you how you can remove those water valves, and you can actually inspect that too as well. So how are we going to access that water valve itself? Now, there's going to be more than just these two water valves in there. So with that being said, how are we going to get this panel off of here? Well, there's going to be one screw here, so one, another one over here on the bottom, so that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's actually 6 screws on the back side of here. I recommend using just a regular Phillips head screwdriver. The reason why is because you have a metal screw that's going into plastic, right? So not only is it coming out of plastic, but it's going to go back in. If you use a drill or anything like that, you can actually strip that out pretty easy, and then that's not going to be a good day. So we just want to make sure that you don't torque it down too tight on there and strip that out of there. All right, so for time's sake, I went ahead and just removed all those screws, and I can pop this back panel off. You can just take your fingers right underneath here, lift up, boom, pops right off of there. So you heard me talking about the pressure sensor. Here's your pressure sensor right here. Now again, it's got a tube that runs down the back side here, goes down and in, back on the back side of this tub, all right? So that's where it senses the water level and the frequency and everything like that. Now you have your water valves that are sitting right here. So you got your hot water, cold water over here, and then this is that little spray nozzle that's up there, okay? So how are we going to test and inspect it? Well, you know, it's very simple. Each one of these is 120 volts AC. So how are you going to actually get one of those to power up so you can actually test to make sure that you're not having a power issue or anything like that? Maybe the main board's not sending out the voltage, something like that. Well, on this one, I went ahead and just put it on a rinse and spin. Now, I can only check the cold water side on the rinse side. All right. The reason why is because the government has mandated that all rinse cycles be done in cold water for energy efficiency, you know, all those other things, conserve water, energy from the hot water side, all that stuff. So again, all rinses are done in cold water. So how I can test that is I put it on the rinse, and then I'm going to hit start over here, and I've got my voltage meter here. I got her set on AC. Hopefully that'll stick there for you. Got a little bit of ghost voltage on there right now, and I'm going to hit start. Okay. Now I heard my water valve kick on there, and I'm going to test. Yeah. So I got my voltage there. I don't have anything on the hot water side. Remember, I only got on the cold water side, so you can see the voltage right there. So what I'm going to do now I know my board is sending out my proper voltage, my 120 volts, to my cold water side here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this thing to heavy duty, and then I've got it selected on hot, and now I'm going to hit start on here. See if we can get our hot water valve to come on here. So it's going to do its load sensing. That's what it's doing right now. It's sensing the load, and the way it does that and determines how much weight is in there by the amperage that is drawn by the motor down there to move and spin those clothes around inside of it. So that's how it does that. All right, so here in just a second, we should see our hot water valve. Actually, you'll see this one come on first because this is our pre-wash over here. So this one will kick on here. Yep, I just felt it kick on. And then after it does that, you'll hear it switch, and it'll go over here to your hot water side. So this is how you can just test your hot water and your cold water valves just real quick. So it's doing its pre. I can still feel it over here. Meter's going crazy tonight. All right, now I just heard it switch over. I'm gonna check. Yep, there's my voltage. So I know that my board is sending out the correct voltage to my hot side and my cold side. So I know that that's good there. So now, how are we going to remove this and inspect it? Well, first of all, we're going to kill power to it. Turn it off and unplug it. Now, you do have to wait probably about 10-15 seconds because these capacitors just need to bleed off a little bit on there. But how are we going to remove this water valve? Easiest thing to do is there's another screw on this side over here, and there's another one right here on this control panel. Now again, for time's sake, I went ahead and just removed those, and then you just take that and just flip it up, okay? So now it's flipped up, it's up out of the way, we don't have to worry about it. A good idea to do on this is to take a picture. Take a picture so you know exactly what color goes where on this water valve. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take this thing off. Now there's going to be 3 screws here. One, 2, and then again, you're going to take a picture. Hot water side comes off. Cold. Alright. This is also for our bleach container up there too as well. So I just kept one screw in there, so when I took that off of there, you know, it didn't go anywhere. Now I've got my other one here. Take that water valve off there. And you're gonna have two hoses that it's connected to over here. Again, that's for the pre-wash and then for the bleach dispenser. So this comes right off of there. You'll notice that you have these that will fit right down inside of here. So if you replace this water valve, it comes as an assembly. Replace it as an assembly, it'll make your life a whole lot easier. Flip this thing over, grab your little clips. I like to spin them around to the top there so I can move it around a lot better. That one. Move that around to the front there. So that one's going to be a booger. The other one's here. Alright, so now that I've got those back out of the way, I'll grab my hoses. That hose off. And pop that hose off. There we go. So here is your water valve. It is now taken off the washing machine. So you want to inspect all these too as well. Make sure that there's nothing clogging inside of there. And again, if you got to replace this whole piece, or if you got to replace a water valve on there, my suggestion to you is just to go ahead and replace the whole thing. It's pretty simple. It's a cheap, easy fix on there. And most of the time, that's going to be your problem. So, all right. So how do we put that back on? Well, again, like I said, remember, we wanted to make sure that we took pictures because those hoses, all right, you could get them mixed up over here and then you're not gonna get your bleach dispensed, or it's not going to spray right or something like that. So again, take the pictures of that, and then we're gonna put this back on. That one back on. That one back on. Pieces there. Here, back on there. Take this, back down in there. All right, so then we're good there. I'm going to put these back on. And we took a picture of it. It's in there. Again, like I said, I'm going into plastic here, so I want to make sure that I don't over torque it down. Okay, so we're good to go now. We've got all our screws back in there, and now we just basically kind of put everything back together. Put this back down on there, like so. I'm gonna put our cover. Actually, we're gonna put that screw back in and put that screw back in. Put this cover back. Put in your screws. Plug her back in, hook up your water, see if it works. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you on the next one.